Well, the distributors changed it a little bit.
Oh, no,
Irish
no,
yeah,
those distributors,
Hollywood.
you can't trust
But
them.
you cannot.
What do they call it?
An Irish vampire in Hollywood.
Oh,
the vampire never goes there, but
oh, sure.
whatever. Buy it anyway.
What can I say, Peggy?
Integrity.
Integrity is a screenwriter, filmmaker, portrait photographer. Very importantly, she read in the Eve Branstein production of Waiting for Jack, a poetry theater piece where Peggotty portrayed her sister Philomene, and John Harris essayed the poetry of John Thomas. And it was reviewed in the Argonauts as being one of the most moving duets in any past staged presentation of poetry in LA. Say hello to Peggotty Long.
Oh.
Yeah.
All I thought of was that Michael had tricked me a tiny bit, because I just came in there and I was going to read with, anyway, I was going to read with John Harris being John Thomas and I being Philomene, and I walked into this thing and suddenly we were announced, and John Harris, he runs out to me and said, "Give me a big kiss." Oh, because I was still in myself. I wasn't in Philomene, so I said, no. And he pleased the audience and myself by saying, later. So anyway, I loved him. And the first time I ever had wind of him is when a friend of mine in the 70s at Papa Box, she could not bear going to see Night of the Living Dead by herself and go home. And, John Harris said we could spend the night up in the top of Papa Box after seeing it. And it was pretty scary. I remember Laura's hands growing quite cold at the beginning of the film. And it was the film that got me into filmmaking, because I thought anything that can bring that amount of power, I've got to learn about, because I freaked myself. And then also John Harris, in his very giving heart, gave my sister Philomene Long, the director and co-producer of The Beats, an existential comedy, he gave them $2,000 to finish that film, because he liked Stuart Kirchhoff and he wanted The Beats to, Venice Beats to go on in history, and it did. The film was finished, because those are the most expensive parts of ending a film. So anyway, the last time I did see John was I did at a celebration of Beyond Baroque, what do you call it? Celebration, anyway. I said, "Do you want to go and you read John and I read Philomene and we go sell some books?" And he was so excited about it. And, unfortunately, when I went to get in contact with him, he had become sick. So I'm going to read, it might be a little long, but it was the poem that just caught me in this Against the Day of the Dead book, which I got off the internet. I bought it because it was special collections, and to Philomene, my sister. I always wondered when he handed it to Philomene, what her expression was, because it says, "For Philomene, in memory of that wild night in Rio." Love John Harris. So, anyway, he's one of the great ones. So I am going to read this, and it's a little bit long, but it's actually, It touched me so deeply, the loss of my sister Philomene, the loss of my mother, for the loss of John, for the loss of, his family who's still here, and, it just seemed the proper, little series, the proper one to read. It's called The Culling. For James Harris, M.D., deceased. That was John's brother. 1, the ritual. There are 3 things that are never satisfied, yea, 4 that say not enough. The grave and the barren womb, the earth that is not satisfied with water, and the fire that saith not enough. Proverbs 30:15-16. Taps, a flag for the family, fistfuls of earth, and a bone wind snarls the notes, the dust, his fabric. We stand together, separate, and put our chop on his extinction. A priest says, husband, father, son, brother, friend. But there is no one to hear. We give him our words because we do not understand. And one way of knowing is closed. We say these things happen. We say deliverance, resurrection, and we say goodbye. Each to the other. 2, the bloodline. There are 3 things which are too ponderful. Yea, for which I know not, the way of an eagle in the air, the way of a serpent upon a rock, the way of a ship on the sea, and the way of a young man with a maid. Proverbs 30:18-19. Months ago, watching him die like an oak, even wishing him dead sometimes, I wrote, grandfather practiced acupuncture, prescribed herbs and leeches, concocted nostrums, elixirs, placebos, died in his 40th year of the flu. You studied Galen as literature, are skilled in surgery and pathology, have saved more lives than grandfather ever dreamed, and wanted to die in your 40th year. It baffles me. We were out of the same limb, the same belly. When we were boys, I'd have jacked you off if you'd asked me. While father saved souls whose bodies needed meat, you tended to wounded creatures. The summer I turned 10, you came home from academy between autumn and June. You had become a man. That summer you declared, I have sentenced my life to medicine. Sentence your life to medicine. Gemini, wasting to skull heads, a scab of hair. They say you will die, lack of oxygen to the brain. During your 4-day coma, how does the sickness begin? Where does it end? Medicine man, oracle. When I try to approach, his words elude me. Tell me, is my brother still living? No. He isn't living anymore. The breath goes out of him into wood. 3, the ghost dance. There are 3 things which are stately in their watch, yea, 4 which are stately in their going. The lion, which is the mightiest among the beasts, and turneth not away for any. The greyhound, the he-goat also, and the king against whom there is no rising up. Proverbs 30, 29, 30, 31. This is the third night in the ground, the third night of low lying, whether the death of a brother is like bad news from Asia. He is still whole. It will be for years before his bone begins to thaw, before his meat becomes honey to the ants. He is still whole, but he is not even a fraction. Lodi, California, February 25th, 1971. My dear son, well, Jimmy is gone. It seems like a bad dream. You used to play so nice together. I was sorry things turned out as they did. At the funeral, it was terribly hard to see Jimmy in his casket. I patted his hands and folded them on his chest, and then I placed a goodbye kiss on his forehead and consigned him to the great life giver who will call him from the grave someday. And I cannot believe that day can be long delayed, the way things are, ever faithful in our Lord Jesus Christ, your loving Father. 3 nights gone. Darkness falls upon the earth like a widow. There is bad news from Malaysia. Lovers, everything that happened here will happen again. You will paint your ankles red against the snake. You will stitch your eyelids shut, but it will happen. It will come between you like the border of a nation, and you will be perfect, incorruptible. I dreamt this out of waking, for the waking. If thou hast done foolishly in lifting up thyself, if thou hast planned devices, lay thy hand upon thy mouth, for the churning of milk bringeth forth curd, and the wringing of the nose bringeth forth blood. Proverbs 30, 32, 33. This was the spring that never came. But you were old enough to know that what you don't receive remains. It's what you have that goes.
Harris's poetry really did change from his document called Where Love Is, that Johansson called Too Pretty. This is well, it's an ugly world. You know, you gotta, the poet's job is to write about what's going on out there. Rick Merlin